In lesson 9.3, we're going to look at the idea of determining your sowing days. And this is a very broad concept that's used in any agricultural operation. When do you plant in order to get a harvest at a specific time? A lot of planning goes into running a CSA program, timing things with farmers markets, things like that. So it's not something I'm introducing here as something that's innovative with microgreens. What makes it unique about microgreens in terms of your sowing dates is that you have so many sowing dates throughout the course of a year. And as I've talked about already, if you're doing 2 harvests a week, you're going to have about 100 sowing dates. And so you can see there's a lot of calculations that need to be done. But also I think you could probably see that if you're doing that many sowing dates, you're going to very, very quickly get into a pattern. And so let's look at the idea of calculating sowing dates, which really is just counting backwards using the expected days to maturity of your crop to determine your soaking or sowing date. So days to maturity is something that's determined for a lot of crops, and while it varies, we can use it as a way to determine our best sowing dates. So the thing with microgreens is you might have some slightly different cycles depending on the season. So if we have cooler conditions, the cycle might need to be a little bit longer, and if you have warmer conditions, you might need to shorten the cycle. And so once again, we are not shifting our harvest date in these cases, we're shifting our sowing date. And sometimes we get that shift wrong, and so we need to adjust our growing cycle, which we've talked about. But in general, if we've got a bit of climate control, we should be able to control the life cycle of our crop to make sure it matures on the day that we need to harvest it. So let's look at a couple crops here just to see what those days to maturity look like. So something like sunflower is a 9-day crop, pea is a 10-day crop, and then looking at radish and buckwheat as 8-day crops. So what you can see from this is you're going to have multiple sowing days, or rather multiple soaking days. So for example, if I sow this sunflower on Monday, I'm actually going to soak it on the Monday as well, because I'm just going to soak it for a couple of hours. But this pea crop, I'm actually going to soak on the Sunday and then sow it on the Monday because it's going to soak overnight. So I've got an additional soaking day, and then I've got a sowing day where I'm sowing multiple things. Many crops have about this 8 to 10 day cycle, and those are the crops that I really focus on within a system. You can see something like basil gets into the 20 to 25 day range, and this makes it really, really difficult if you have that long of a cycle and you're doing multiple harvests a week to manage multiple crops. So in the process of determining our sowing dates using the days to maturity for our selected crops, what we're going to find is we have basically a set schedule every week of when we're doing our sowing in order to get our harvest on a specific date. So because there is so much to manage within all this, this again is where the spreadsheet and the crop planner comes in, which will go into more detail elsewhere.